This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Broadcasting live in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Wednesday. Good to have you with us. Usually Jeff Stein joining us this week. I got something else in place of Jeff today in just a second. And we, of course, just glad to have you with us. No other guests this year, this hour outside of my next guest, which this is going to be fun. Cliff Schecter is, of course, the head of the Cliff's Edge YouTube page. You can find great content there on YouTube from Cliff, who is kind enough to join us today to talk about his little venture into national news. But even more important, I contact him on Monday to see, hey, can you do my show on Wednesday? And he's like, can't talk now. Where exactly were you at on Monday night?
Well, I was on one of Elon Musk's rocket ships to Jupiter, and we got lost somewhere around the bend. I think it was the dark side of the moon, and then I found Elon's cerebral tissue there. No, that's not what really happened. I was at the game one of the ALCS because, as your fans who listen to me will know, that I grew up in New York, and I am a Yankees fan, and please still like my politics, hate my sports choices, but my dad was born in the Bronx and took me as a kid, and there's a lot of memories. So yes, I'm a big Yankees fan. It was an awesome game. I got to take my 14-year-old. We rocked it, and man, we sat in the bleachers too. Man, you gotta be serious to sit in the bleachers, because I'm not sitting there getting tanked with my 14-year-old. It doesn't stop everybody around me, though. I'll tell you that. So let's just say when Juan Soto hit a home run, there was beer that got on my 14-year-old. Maybe he even got to drink something.
Let me ask you, how did you ever, I mean, because that is one of the hardest tickets to get in all of sports, and playoff tickets for the Yankees. How did you get tickets to the Yankees?
We actually just jumped on it really early.
Really?
I wish there were like a really cool story about how, I like stood outside of a restaurant where I knew one of the Yankees executives was. I mean, we knew we were going to be in New York. It was a fall break for my kids. We're going to visit. My mom still lives in New York in the same apartment I grew up in. And so we're going to visit to see grandma. And we're like, the luck of it, the LCS game one. And my older son is not really a fan of sports, organized sports in general, but my younger son, he took on my Yankee fandom as well as my wife's and my growing Reds fandom all the time. So we root for both, but Yankees are there, and it was a lot of fun. Giancarlo Stanton hit another missile. Man, that dude is strong. And we had fun. And then I also had fun over the weekend. I'll do the transition for you.
Yeah, please.
Because I threw out a tweet that I just thought was a throwaway tweet, because Meghan McCain, like other Republicans, and she's the one McCain who really is MAGA. She married Ben Dominic, who's the guy who runs the Federalist, who won't tell you who funds it. It rhymes with schmootin'. She's a complete hacker. Her brother, Jimmy, after they said the stuff they said about veterans, the Republicans, and Trump came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, she's turned into this right-wing little troll. And when I wrote a book on McCain in 2008, I was told lots of things, and some of them were by close advisors, one very close advisor to McCain, about her. And at the time, she was a 20-something, and I'm not cruel like Republicans. I don't, let's say, go after Gus Walz, who, so even though she was a 20-something, I was like, this doesn't add anything to my book. I left it out. Now she's become the horrible person she is, and so when she threatened to say what her dad really thought of Kamala Harris, I just was like, fine, do it. I've got notes. I'll say what your dad really thought about you. Nothing good. It was a lot of people retweeted it, which was fun. George Conway and some people, so it blew up big. And then some of I love it's all the Iraq apologist types who still like Meghan McCain came after me. The John Podoritzes and Eli Lakes and all the ones that lied about WMDs in Iraq, which I reminded them because they think they're going to come after me and they're going to, I'm going to be like some liberal stereotype and be like, please don't hurt me. Instead, I remind them of all the blood they have on their hands and ask them if it wakes them up at night from their nightmares of a war they started in a region they destabilized through their lives, and rip the crap out of them about other stuff too, because I loathe them. They're terrible people. And it ended up making Raw Story, and Stephanie Miller talked about it and whatever. And so here we are. And guess what? If everybody wants to know at least some of the things that were said, you can come by my live stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. 2 p.m. 1 p.m. is when I guest on somebody else's. I start mine at 2 p.m., and we've had it 2 weeks in a row. This is going to be the third week. And, yeah, decide that Meghan McCain deserves no protection, no whatever. She's a horrible person who's said horrible things about people, and I have stuff on her. So, yeah, I'm going to share it.
Okay, so 2 p.m.
Maybe some of it. Maybe we'll save some for later. 2 p.m., go to Cliff's Edge, YouTube.
2 p.m. Eastern? Is it 2 p.m. Eastern?
That's correct.
2 p.m. Eastern, 1
Join
p.m.
the live stream, and I will save it. I will have a lot of it that I will share. Maybe I'll save some of it for later, but you'll hear some of it.
All right, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, and then 11 a.m. on the Seattle timeline. That's when you're going to be able to hear this tomorrow. Tomorrow, correct?
At Cliff's Edge. If you go to YouTube.com Cliff's, was it _Edge? God, I have to even remind myself. You'll get there, and there'll be a live button. I don't have a link yet to put up because it doesn't create a link until you go live. So
I see.
You'll see live. Click on that. I should be on for an hour and a half. You can jump in the comment section and say you're enjoying it. Ask me questions. I like to interact. Or just insult me and say what a horrible human being I am for sharing something about Meghan McCain, who is an absolutely awful person by all accounts of everyone who's ever spent more than 5 minutes with her.
All right.
I feel okay about it.
I'm a shill. Is there any preview you want to give exclusively to my show here about anything just suggestion-wise or anything? Or are you going to save the meat and potatoes for tomorrow?
Well, I got to save most of it tomorrow. But, yeah, let's say that mom and dad didn't very much want her to join dad's campaign because they knew that everything she did in life was all about her. But there's more details and choice words that were used, and that I have to save for mine.
All right.
So,
and by the way, not anything you just described, not a surprise. I mean, I think
no, it won't be a surprise. There'll be one or two things I think that you'll be surprised at how. I mean, she's a terrible person, but I was even a little surprised that her dad and mom would say some of these things. But again, people suddenly start thinking something, and of course they came after me on Twitter, and they're like, "Well, I'm liberal, and I can't even believe you're doing this." I'm like, "You're the reason we've lost for 25 years." Yeah. You also sat there when Mitch McConnell stole a Supreme Court seat and nodded along. You sat there when they impeached Bill Clinton over nothing and nodded along. You sat there when they knocked down, almost threatened poll workers in 2000 and stole the election from Al Gore. You nodded along. Guess what? I'm not that. I'll be your Huckleberry. You want to come and insult me? You want to come and attack me? I'm happy to respond. And you want to come after our party's nominee, Kamala Harris, and make up some lies your dad supposedly said? I'm happy to tell the truth about what some people told me. So whatever. Come say whatever you want. In life, as Matt can attest to from when I met him, I'm a pretty happy, easy-go-lucky, whatever kind of guy. But when it comes to people that attack my country, that attack the commonality among all of us, that are bigots, that attack my family, no. Then you might as well label me a sociopath because I have no sympathy for you.
We should back up a little bit here and understand what this context was, because this doesn't make any damn sense for me with her. Donald Trump has been horrible to her dad. Horrible.
Yes.
I get you might begrudgingly. I know a lot of Republicans who are like, okay, I'm not a big fan of Harris, but it sure is not going to be Trump for me. I get that. No problem. I can follow that. You can sit on the sidelines, but for some reason, she decided to get upset because she felt, some Democrats were inappropriately talking about her dad, who was a pretty good American, and a shout out to days of yore as far as Republicans go. And so she threatened to basically say, I'm going to share with everyone what my dad really thought about Kamala Harris. And I'm like, there's a part of that whole thing. And just before you got into your response, I'm like, okay, are you trying to help the guy that basically can totally and completely insulted your father relentlessly?
Yeah,
are you just trying to do that?
She's pathetic. Here's the story, right? Again, And a lot of what I say tomorrow will have a lot to do with it. It's all she cares about. She's a lazy, do nothing, live off of your nepotism, make easy money. But, and that's how she ended up on The View because of her name. She didn't know a damn thing about politics. And she tried to talk about stuff intelligently. It didn't come out intelligently. She doesn't know what she's talking about in politics and political history. I mean, she had nothing to add except for to fight with everybody, including the Republicans who were on that panel there. So she married Ben Dominic. And if people don't know who he is, you can do a nice little Google about him. He was busted 3 different times for plagiarism. The Washington Post fired him. He accepted money from the country of Malaysia or an entity there to write positive things about them. And he's a right-wing loon who is the editor at The Federalist, infamously, again, the paper that will not tell you who supports it, who gives them their money. They will not tell you if they're a money laundering operation, which I'm sure they are. For whatever they are, they're right-wing nuts. And she chose to betray her dad and the moderate legacy of her family. And I criticized her dad a lot in the book I wrote. But I can admit, compared to the Republicans now, the guy's a damn hero.
Yeah.
I always called him a hero in war because I'm not scum like them. I would never touch his war record. I pointed out I wish he had that courage in politics when he started siding with Rove and Bush. Well, you know what? In the end, he still was the one who saved Obamacare by refusing to crush it. No, not Trump, as J.D. Vance said, one of his 10 billion lies. Yeah. It was McCain who did it. And so what has Trump said about her dad? He wasn't a hero. I like people who weren't caught. When the USS McCain, the ship came by, he refused to even be there. He's constantly disparaged, refused to go to the funeral, and constantly disparaged her father. But she married this right-wing loser, plagiarist troll, and so she's joined the dark side. That's the best thing I can say.
It just is mind-numbing to me because this is not a fight you need to pick. And right now, we are looking at an election here where the guy who likes to dance on your dad's grave is on the other side. Why you would even dance with the idea of helping him out, I can't figure that out.
She's a horrid person. There's not really much else to say. No. Jimmy McCain, from all accounts, seems like a pretty quality guy. I don't agree with all of his politics. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to make sure you want to hear more on this. Obviously, the live stream tomorrow with Cliff is where you want to hear it. It's on Cliff's Edge YouTube page. I'll post the link to the YouTube page, and when it goes live, there'll be a link there. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. on the West Coast. That's when you'll be able to get this, and obviously, Cliff's going to talk to the details here, and that's an important thing. So tomorrow, Cliff's Edge on YouTube, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, and 11 a.m. in Seattle if you're out there listening to us right now. Let's take a break, come back, and talk about how Donald Trump is dissolving in front of our freaking eyes right now. Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us on your Wednesday, 952-946-6205.
You remind me of the Babe. Power of voodoo.
Broadcasting in the nighttime hour, 11:50 a.m. KKNW in Seattle. In the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the afternoons live in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Once again, Jeff Stein usually joins us here on Wednesday, unavailable today. He gets so busy during political season, so it's hopefully he'll be with us the rest of the time. And then I got to see, I'm presuming we're doing election night coverage here again, so I'll have to see if he'll join us, and Cliff will join us on election night as well to talk about things as they start to come through. But a lot of other things to get to today. But do not bury the lead with Cliff. So once again, Meghan McCain comes on out. For some reason, this is a woman whose father has been consistently and horrifically attacked by Donald Trump, stomping on his grave. And once again, I don't agree with a lot of things that John McCain believed in. We can bring up the savings and loan issues. There's a lot of things that you can criticize John McCain for. One thing you cannot is his military service. And at the end of the day, too, with his awakening, realizing I'm on the wrong side of history, saving Obamacare. But Donald Trump, there isn't. So there are some Democrats today that are praising McCain or, trying to say that they, embracing McCain's legacy. Okay, fine. You may not like that, But you do understand if you are going to go on out there and criticize them for doing it, you're encouraging people to support the guy who has urinated on your dad's headstone repeatedly. So I have no idea what the heck she was doing. Cliff just basically made the point. Fine, you want to start spilling tea, I'll spill some tea. And he's going to talk about it. And he's planning on it tomorrow. Cliff Schecter's YouTube page tomorrow. Cliff's Edge on YouTube. Go there at 2 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock Central Time, 11 a.m. tomorrow on Thursday on the West Coast. Go there. He's going to talk about some of the things that he knows from the biography he wrote about John McCain. And so, he'll, yeah, and you want to hear that. I'm going to guess there's going to might be some breaking news off that. So make sure you're listening there tomorrow. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I want to get to Trump here in a second, but I do also want to make sure I address one quick thing because I've had Republicans start trying to throw this thing called Polymarket at me, which they're saying, Polymarket's predicting that Donald Trump is going to win every state in the union. Polymarket is this, and it's a betting thing. Now, I'm like, okay, they seem to be an outlier to this whole thing. They seem to be an outlier to this whole thing. So I went and looked at them. Polymarket is an offshore crypto-based betting market that if you're an American, you can't bet on. Now, what is the big red flag there? Crypto. That's right. It's Russia, okay? It's Russia. This is Eastern Bloc. Why do I not invest in crypto? Not because I'm not a dude, boy. I mean, it doesn't look legit in any capacity, and it seems like every person that has pitched crypto up until about 5 years ago looked like a mobster from Russia's Kid. Look me, I'm on shiny car. You can be like me, rich too, with lots of ladies. You get into crypto. I mean, it had all the telltale signs of a Ponzi scheme. I've avoided it. But with these people that like to manipulate markets, they love it. So this is a probably Russian-based crypto betting market that is putting money here. It has no basis in reality. And I will say one thing, too, if I can, because I'll tell you what, I'll save it there. But just if you get someone saying, oh, look at Polymarket, don't look at Polymarket. That's like looking at like Patriot War Eagle polling, Don Jr. and Eric's polling. I mean, it's slightly biased. Trump has continued to show his deterioration. So yesterday night, and they aired it today, Fox News had a town hall aimed at women featuring an all-female audience. Former President Trump defended his federal rollback of abortion rights, ignored the death of a Georgia woman under a state's restrictive abortion law, and called the Alabama U.S. Senator fantastically attractive. I'm hoping it was Katie and not Tuberville. Let me tell you about him. He coached football. He's a fantastically attractive man. Eee. The Fox News event, which was taped Tuesday night in Cumming, Georgia, and aired late Wednesday morning, was stacked with Trump supporters. As a matter of fact, it was kind of funny because I had someone point out to me really early that it was clear that one of the first people that they showed at this event was Lisa Cawley, the president of Fulton County Republican Women. Went to Lisa. They just called her Lisa. She's the president of the Fulton County Republican Women's Club, even wearing the same necklace as she is in her profile picture. So, yeah, clearly not a unbiased audience. And that's basically what this is. This seems to have been an attempt by Fox News to very quickly give him the most coddling audience he could in the wake of Harris agreeing to the interview on Fox News. The fact that they stacked the audience with Republican plants, you can't just skip past that. don't tell me Harris Faulkner and anyone at Fox News is legitimate. Because do you think for 1 second they would do the same thing for Harris if she did a town hall with them? Of course not. They'd probably bring in the same exact audience who's saying, why do you hate America? Why do you keep lying about your ethnicity? I mean, that's what they would be doing. Biased media is this exactly. This isn't a town hall. This is a freaking infomercial on a pay-per-view channel, for goodness sakes. You've got everyone in the audience is already convinced the product is great. I love Nancy Nelson. Nancy Nelson has filled in for me. She did all those infomercials. And when you're looking at the audience and they do an infomercial, you see how all the audience is like, wow, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen. That was this audience. That was this audience, for goodness sakes. So this was a setup to basically take some of the heat off Fox News for interviewing Harris and basically not screaming at Harris for an hour going, you're horrible, and thank you for your time. I wanted to, the vast majority of the questions in the hour-long segment, which covered topics ranging from the border to immigration to men and women's sports to derogatory reference to transgender athletes, allowed Trump to cast himself as the protector of women's safety with no pushback from the host, Fox News' Harris Faulkner, who cut Trump off at moments when he seemed ready to launch into tirades about the 2020 election and electric vehicles. We had the safest border. We had the best economy. Both lies. Think about a combination of security and finance. Once again, lies. Trump falsely claimed in his presidency during the event. Both campaigns are making an effort to run up to election day. The gender gap is particularly wide between the Vice President Harris and Trump, with female voters favoring Harris by 9 points. As a matter of fact, there has never been, I saw this statistic yesterday, I think it was from CNN, this is the worst any Republican has ever polled with white women this century. With this century, no Republican has polled this bad. It's basically a toss-up with white women. He is overwhelmingly underwater with minority women. And so, yeah, it's something that he desperately needs to have women show up. And so now is this whole thing about, you see, I'm really a protector, chickie poos. Now, reminder, at some point in this debate, or this town hall, he gets to start talking about how he has the hots for the Alabama senator. Yeah, and wait. You're saying that Melania's not on the campaign tour with him? I have no idea why not. The issue of reproductive rights was barely broached during Trump's town hall in Georgia, a swing state with 6-week abortion ban. The topic finally came up at the second to last question, which was framed as an issue that Democrats are using for an electoral advantage. Once again, a stocked audience with prepared questions to basically help out Trump. After years and years of turmoil, now it's back to the states, said Trump, who has boasted in the past about appointing the Supreme Court justices who overturned it, a move the majority of Americans did not support. Nobody wanted to be on the federal government. Trump lied. People did. 5 or 6, 7 years ago, they started talking about weeks and this and that, but what they wanted it back to the states to vote for the people, and that's what we have. Texas, 80% of the people in Texas want abortion rights. 20% don't. Guess what the white men in Texas have done? Exactly. This is not about states' rights. It's about control. That's all it is. Trump noted that voters in Ohio and Kansas, both states he voted for, passed measures on the ballot back protecting abortion rights after the fall of Roe. He suggested that because you made so many people upset, you idiot. He said that, though he then said both states might come to regret their decisions, even he argued his ultimate goal was for the states to make their own abortion laws. Because once again, it's not about the people in the state choosing. It's about a handful of white men telling all women what they can and cannot do. So he once says, see, after I overturned it, people in Ohio and Kansas, traditionally Republican states, basically enshrined abortion rights in their states' constitutions. And, well, see, they're going to regret it. They probably don't want to do this. It's not, see, that's the whole thing. To appear supportive of reproductive rights, the GOP is trying to convey that the party backs in vitro fertilization after an Alabama court ruled early this year that embryos frozen used for the procedure qualify as unborn children for the purposes of civil liability. I'm the father of IVF. Trump said this. I'm the father of IVF. adding that he's fielded calls on IVF from Alabama Republican and U.S. Senator Katie Britt, a young, just fantastically attractive person. Wow. He never explained why he called himself the father of IVF. He's barely the father to his own kids, so. At the start of the town hall, Trump and the Fox host mocked Harris-Walz campaign call on Tuesday that featured the family of the Georgia woman who, according to reporting from ProPublica, died under Georgia's abortion law. The woman, Amber Thurman, who had traveled to North Carolina for abortion pills, was later denied urgent life-saving care in Georgia while suffering a deadly complication. We'll get better ratings, I promise, Trump said of his own town hall. Harris called Trump's remark on IVF quite bizarre in remarks as Kamala Harris to reporters on Wednesday afternoon. He needs to take responsibility for the fact that 1 in 3 women in America live under Trump's abortion ban. Trump then called out one of Donald Trump's answers he gave to the all-female audience Wednesday. He responded about when he was asked about inflation, he responded talking about donuts. Host Harris Faulkner talked about how Trump would bring down inflation and pointed to it was already on the decline. Look, the interest rate hasn't come down very much, and you have this. You make donuts. You have the stoves. You have this. Everything is evolved. He's falling apart in front of our eyes, people. Trump went on to make the case that drilling for more oil would ultimately bring down inflation. Trump's campaign highlighted the donut comment, which he apparently was trying to use as a euphemism for oil. It wasn't very clear in any capacity. Don't ever tell me again that Harris needs to be more detailed in her policies when this is what qualifies as an explanation from Trump, said national security lawyer Brandley Moss. And then at the town hall, one of the all-women audience ended a question with the woman that said that Joe Biden would call the audience terrorist. Trump had been dealing with questions about women's reproductive freedom when a woman complained about the whole woke military. I want to thank you for coming into the room full of women with current administration would consider domestic terrorists. This is true, Trump said. PolitiFact swiftly said, no, it's actually false. The federal government does not have a blanket designation for domestic terrorists for politically conservative women. The women went on to talk about establishing peace in the world by basically being the victim. God, I'm so tired of you Republicans. You are such a bunch of shrinking little violets. Oh, we're victims. Anytime anything doesn't go the way you demand it goes, you basically are victims. I got so tired. It came down to this. Back when Trump was elected, you guys sat for 4 years with your liberal tear mugs talking about how you libs have to take it. And then you lost in 2020. And the first thing you said is, you guys on the left need to be nice to us. This hurts. Screw you. I am sorry that this is all your world has come to, that you're a victim. But it's just sad and pathetic. It really is. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
You think me rude, but I would just stand down.
Could have been a little less strange that night. I was feeling down and my mood wasn't right. Should have stayed a little bit longer.
It's the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us today. So let's go over. I'm going to take a break from horrible domestic, Trump news to horrible international news. Why not? Now, I was saying this earlier about Vlad Putin and cryptocurrency betting market, that sort of thing. I consider myself to be a Christian. I am. You do or don't do whatever it is you do or don't want to do. That's my religious disclaimer. That's how I always say it. I'm not here to change your mind or convince you to do something you don't want to do. You find out what you're happy with and, all my best. Knock yourself out. Or nothing at all. Go for it. Knock yourself out. I basically, as a person who's Christian, I don't root for the death of anybody. That's just not who I am. Now, we all have one trip on the spinning rock, so, it is, it's something that's inevitable, but I don't take any pleasure or joy in encouraging or cheering for this. That being said, I will say this definitively. The world will be a far better place when Vlad Putin is no longer on it. I can say that with definity. The world will be a much better place when Vlad Putin. He has, and his organization have funded these right-wing groups that have taken over Europe and it is terrifying. Rome. Italy on Wednesday passed the West's most restrictive law against international surrogacy, threatening would-be parents who use birth mothers abroad with jail time and severe fines in a move that critics say will chiefly target same-sex couples. Domestic surrogacy was already banned in Italy, as it is in some other countries and U.S. states, but the amended Italian law goes further, classifying surrogacy as a rare universal crime that transcends borders like terrorism and genocide. Wow. The measure marks the strongest salvo yet into the far-right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's bid to put a conservative stamp on Italian society, and it elevates surrogacy to a hot-button issue in the West's raging culture wars. The law, passed last year by the lower house and effectively ensured by the Senate vote on Wednesday, also criminalizes work by Italian citizens employed as doctors, nurses, and technicians in foreign fertility clinics that facilitate surrogacy. So, if you're an Italian and you happen to work in, say, London at a medical facility that deals with births, and someone in the hospital does some surrogacy work there, you could be charged in Italy even though you don't have anything to do with this. This is pretty... The trains are on time, you say. Wow, okay. That and other aspects of the amended law may be hard to enforce. Even backers of the legislation concede that heterosexual couples may face few questions when returning to Italy with an infant or when registering their child's birth certificate with local municipalities. Who is to say that the woman is in the couple in that couple didn't deliver the baby while abroad? By contrast, an infant in the arms of a same-sex parents, particularly two men, would amount to an obvious red flag. Meloni, a single mother who never married the father of her daughter. Fine. I mean, see, I'm not the one talking about traditional marriage and traditional families. I have no problem with it. You guys are. You guys in the United States on the right love to talk about traditional families with Donald Trump as your beacon. Mr. Porn Star, spank me with that magazine. Mr. Three Marriages. Yeah, it's pretty bad. The single mother, once again, this is not my standard. I'm just holding you to your own standard. Meloni, a single mother who never married the father of her daughter, has vowed to amplify traditional family values. Her government and its backers in parliament have moved to stop same-sex couples from registering their children's birth certificates and have sought to curtail gender-affirming care for minors. Legislation on topics beyond family issues, including a sweeping government-backed security bill already approved by the lower house, takes aim at climate activists and labor unions by criminalizing protests that obstruct roads and railways, opponents say. The Italian government and its backers insist the law isn't aimed at same-sex couples, but rather at the practice of surrogacy, which they decry is immoral. Of course, it will be easier to identify two men with a child, said Jacopo Cohi, spokesman for the conservative advocacy group Pro Vita Familia, which vigorously campaigned for the new law. But he added, I believe this is barbaric practice that creates a market for children regardless of who makes use of it. Everyone should be penalized. Roughly 90% of the 250 or so couples in Italy. This is 250 couples in Italy. Okay. Italy's a big place, man. There's a lot of people there. I've been there a few times. Roughly 90% of the 250 or so couples in Italy who rely on international surrogacy each year here are heterosexual, legal experts say, but same-sex couples in the law's most vulnerable targets. So basically, you can say this, 25 couples. This is a law written to stop 25 couples, gay couples, because once again, 90% of 250, 90% are heterosexual couples, and they even acknowledge, I don't know how you're going to be able to prove that the person didn't give birth. So this is about 25 same-sex couples in Italy basically being prosecuted because they wanted to be a parent. First of all, I want to say to all these people out there that try to do this in this argument of Christian faith, that you don't clearly understand who the heck Jesus was. You've fallen in love with Paul's letter to the Romans or Leviticus or some of the other more harsher tomes within the Bible, and you intentionally ignore who Jesus was. Jesus went out of his way to find the people that were marginalized by society, the people that you just marginalized by society. He would be sitting there washing the feet of the gay couples, because that's what he did back then. He went and found the marginalized. That's who he embraced. This entire argument that you look at a same-sex couple who is trying to emulate your own standard, a couple with kids, the nuclear family, whatever you want to call it, and you say, but not them, and you marginalize them. Or if it's Trump's people and they're out there marginalizing transgender people at a town hall, they just want to have a normal life, and you can't go out of there. You go out of your way to vilify these people. Let me make sure you understand something. You aren't Christian. You just aren't, because you sure aren't doing what Jesus told you to do. Seattle, Chicago. Talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hour 2 up next.
Could have been a little less strange that night. I was feeling down and my mood wasn't right. Should have stayed a little bit longer.
It's the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us today. So let's go over, I'm going to take a break from horrible domestic, Trump news to horrible international news. Why not? Now, I was saying this earlier about Vlad Putin and cryptocurrency betting market, that sort of thing. I consider myself to be a Christian. I am. You do or don't do whatever it is you do or don't want to do. That's my religious disclaimer. That's how I always say it. I'm not here to change your mind or convince you to do something you don't want to do. You find out what you're happy with and, all my best. Knock yourself out. Or nothing at all. Go for it. Knock yourself out. I basically, as a person who's Christian, I don't root for the death of anybody. That's just not who I am. Now, we all have one trip on this spinning rock, so, it is, it's something that's inevitable, but I don't take any pleasure or joy in encouraging or cheering for this. That being said, I will say this definitively. The world will be a far better place when Vlad Putin is no longer on it. I can say that with definity. The world will be a much better place when Vlad Putin, he has, and his organization have funded these right-wing groups that have taken over Europe, and it is terrifying. Rome. Italy on Wednesday passed the West's most restrictive law against international surrogacy, threatening would-be parents who use birth mothers abroad with jail time and severe fines in a move that critics say will chiefly target same-sex couples. Domestic surrogacy was already banned in Italy, as it is in some other countries and U.S. states, but the amended Italian law goes further, classifying surrogacy as a rare universal crime that transcends borders like terrorism and genocide. Wow. The measure marks the strongest salvo yet into the far-right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's bid to put a conservative stamp on Italian society, and it elevates surrogacy to a hot-button issue in the West's raging culture wars. The law, passed last year by the lower house and effectively ensured by the Senate vote on Wednesday, also criminalizes work by Italian citizens employed as doctors, nurses, and technicians in foreign fertility clinics that facilitate surrogacy. So, if you're an Italian and you happen to work in, say, London at a medical facility that deals with births, and someone in the hospital does some surrogacy work there, you could be charged in Italy even though you don't have anything to do with this. This is pretty... The trains are on time, you say. Wow, okay. That and other aspects of the amended law may be hard to enforce. Even backers of the legislation concede that heterosexual couples may face few questions when returning to Italy with an infant or when registering their child's birth certificate with local municipalities. Who is to say that the woman is in the couple in that couple didn't deliver the baby while abroad? By contrast, an infant in the arms of a same-sex parents, particularly two men, would amount to an obvious red flag. Meloni, a single mother who never married the father of her daughter, fine. I mean, see, I'm not the one talking about traditional marriage and traditional families. I have no problem with it. You guys are. You guys in the United States on the right love to talk about traditional families with Donald Trump as your beacon. Mr. Porn star, spank me with that magazine. Mr. Three Marriages. Yeah, it's pretty bad. The single mother, once again, this is not my standard. I'm just holding you to your own standard. Maloney, a single mother who never married the father of her daughter, has vowed to amplify traditional family values. Her government and its backers in Parliament have moved to stop same-sex couples from registering their children's birth certificates and have sought to curtail gender-affirming care for minors. Legislation on topics beyond family issues, including a sweeping government-backed security bill already approved by the lower house, takes aim at climate activists and labor unions by criminalizing protests that obstruct roads and railways, opponents say. The Italian government and its backers insist the law isn't aimed at same-sex couples, but rather at the practice of surrogacy, which they decry is immoral. Of course, it will be easier to identify two men with a child, said Japaco Cohi, spokesman for the conservative advocacy group Pro Vida Familia, which vigorously campaigned for the new law. But he added, I believe this is barbaric practice that creates a market for children regardless of who makes use of it. Everyone should be penalized. Roughly 90% of the 250 or so couples in Italy. This is 250 couples in Italy. Okay. Italy's a big place, man. There's a lot of people there. I've been there a few times. Roughly 90% of the 250 or so couples in Italy who rely on international surrogacy each year here are heterosexual, legal experts say, but same-sex couples in the law's most vulnerable targets. So basically, you can say this, 25 couples. This is a law written to stop 25 couples, gay couples, because once again, 90% of 250, 90% are heterosexual couples, and they even acknowledge, I don't know how you're going to be able to prove that the person didn't give birth. So this is about 25 same-sex couples in Italy basically being prosecuted because they wanted to be a parent. First of all, I want to say to all these people out there that try to do this in this argument of Christian faith, that you don't clearly understand who the heck Jesus was. You've fallen in love with Paul's letter to the Romans or Leviticus or some of the other more harsher tomes within the Bible, and you intentionally ignore who Jesus was. Jesus went out of his way to find the people that were marginalized by society, the people that you just marginalized by society. He would be sitting there washing the feet of the gay couples, because that's what he did back then. He went and found the marginalized. That's who he embraced. This entire argument that you look at a same-sex couple who is trying to emulate your own standard, a couple with kids, the nuclear family, whatever you want to call it, and you say, but not them, and you marginalize them. Or if it's Trump's people and they're out there marginalizing transgender people at a town hall. They just want to have a normal life, and you can't go out of there. You go out of your way to vilify these people. Let me make sure you understand something. You aren't Christian. You just aren't, because you sure aren't doing what Jesus told you to do. Seattle, Chicago. Talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hour 2 up next. Number 2 of the show here on your Wednesday. Good to have you with us today. Matt Patrick here. Once again, Cliff Schecter. You'll be able to hear that on the SoundCloud and all your iTunes and all their favorite places. And a reminder, tomorrow, his live stream, where he's going to talk more about what he knows about McCain. That's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 on the West Coast. And that is, of course, on his YouTube page, Cliff's Edge. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I'm excited about Kamala Harris, and I know a lot of other people are, including my next guest, representing 63B, the south side of Minneapolis. Emma Greenman is kind enough to join us today to talk about working with the Harris-Walz campaign and getting people in Minnesota excited about this. Representative, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on today.
Thank you very much for the time. Hey, so I want to start off, first of all, let's just talk. You are running for re-election here. Your district, and by the way, they redistricted your district. Really interesting. You run basically from east to west on the south side of Minneapolis.
I do, border to border, the river to Edina, and I have the creek, most of the creek in my district. So it is a beautiful district with lots of lakes and creeks and great people. But the district did change.
Okay. You have been, obviously, it's one of the things that you've been working with in regards to Harris and Walz. Voting here in Minnesota, it seems to be going pretty well. As you know, we are in early voting here in Minnesota. It seems to be going pretty well, as always, here. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, my background when I was elected to the legislature 4 years ago is I'm a voting rights lawyer, and I worked all over the country to protect the freedom to vote. And what I know about Minnesota is we have a culture, citizens and great election workers who really care about turnout and care about people having their voice in our elections. So when we had the pro-democracy DFL trifecta in 2023 and 2024, we really focused on making sure that it was we were protecting and strengthening people's freedom to vote. And registration is a big piece of that, making registration bridge, not a barrier to participation, and then ensuring that people had all the options they needed to vote when it was convenient for them. So Friday, because early voting started on last month, in September 20th, but on Friday, people will be able to now go in person and directly put their ballot in the tabulator, which people really like. Mm-hmm. You can vote from home. And you can vote on Election Day. So all sorts of ways that folks can get engaged. We've just been expanding those to ensure that people have options that work for them.
One of the things that it's kind of, we're changing a little bit mentality. I know a lot of people, and myself, I included, I don't mind going out on Election Day and waiting in line. But the reality is that you don't have to. And I think one of the things we should kind of encourage was we should encourage people to do more of this and take advantage of it, because, yeah, it's fun to kind of go do the inline stuff on Election Day, but the reality is then all of a sudden a snowstorm comes through or some bad weather or your day gets hectic and it becomes a little more difficult. This is just a great way to make sure your voice is heard, and then you don't have to worry about one single day making sure it happens.
Yeah, that's right. And I have a lot of neighbors who are traveling, and I was like, go vote before you head out of town, even if you think you're going to be back before Election Day. The other thing is that it's great for our election workers and our election administration. They get to space it out, and so just taking care of and making sure that that our process runs smoothly. I encourage people to early vote if you want. If you like to vote on Election Day, that's great too. We have made it so that we are giving people the options, but I agree. I am a person who believes you should get your work done first, and so hopefully folks are voting early, whether it's by mail or whether it's going in person. Both of those options are available to folks everywhere in the state.
Emma Greenman was joining us, representative for 63B, South Minneapolis here. Lastly here, let's just talk a little bit. You're out there doing the door knocking. You're out in your district there. I know your district is leaning quite heavily towards Kamala Harris and Walz. I've been in your district. I've seen the signs. Talk about the excitement there, because obviously it's one of the things that we kind of don't understand is even in areas where there is a lot of excitement about a candidate, there's still a lot of people out there that don't go and vote. And getting out there and getting those people engaged, so you try to get to that 100% mark. I mean, I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I will say both in my district, but I'm a member of the House. I am working all over the state to hold on to our House majority. And so I'm in a lot of districts that are purple, that have folks from across the map. And what I will tell you is that I think the stakes of this election are really clear to people. I think Kamala Harris is really excited. Folks having Tim Walz on the ballot, our governor, has been even more of an adrenaline shot in the arm. But I think it's at the end of the day, people know that they have a choice, and really the choice is multiracial, multi-generational democracy where we're all making decisions together, where we're building bridges, where we believe in freedom and the freedom to participate as well as make your own choices, or something that Donald Trump is offering, which doesn't appear to be democracy at all. And so I think there is absolutely the volunteer energy and the urgency to make sure that every person votes, to make sure that we're having those conversations with folks who are on the fence, and to make sure, what we're hearing in Minnesota is that people like the direction of the last couple of years. They like things getting done, and we want to bring that Minnesota energy and that Minnesota work ethic to Washington. And what I know about Kamala and Tim's agenda is a lot of the things we've been working on here, and I can speak on the democracy things because that's my background. Whether it's the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act at the national level, whether it's the Freedom to Vote Act, those are things we have been working on here and done here, and we know I think that there's a lot of excitement to bring that to Washington. So I'm definitely feeling it, absolutely in my district, but frankly in the districts where I have been spending a lot of time, whether it's Shakopee or Cottage Grove, whether it's Hermantown or St. Peter, all of those places, I'm really seeing a lot of energy, and I think that's the work. That's what we're going to need to really make this important choice for the country and make sure that we protect and strengthen democracy and the freedom of all people in the country, but absolutely Minnesotans.
Representative Emma Greenman, 63B. EmmaGreenman.com is her website there. And, of course, she's encouraging you to go out and vote. Representative, the phone's a little bit rough there, so we're going to have to let you go. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time today, okay?
Thank you so much.
Very much. I didn't know Dixie Cups had cell phones. Dear Lord. Okay. All right. I would get a different service provider, frankly. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I'll tell you what, let me get into one other story here, completely unrelated to that. If you didn't see this, this is hard to comprehend this happened. This happened in South Washington County Schools. Had a substitute teacher come in. This guy was so wildly inappropriate. And there's actually, and I'm going to read from the Star Tribune story on this. I believe it's a Star Tribune story. Go to Bring Me the News. They've got, one of the students took a picture of this guy doing this stuff in the classroom. South Washington County Schools officials say a substitute teacher is banned from its schools and is under investigation after allegedly reenacting the police actions that resulted in the death of George Floyd during classes at Woodbury High School. The teacher also mimicked holding up a gun and pointing it at students, stated that police brutality is not real. What? Told sexist jokes and engaged in inappropriate and racially harmful behavior during his separate English classes for sophomores and seniors, according to a letter from Woodbury High School Principal Sarah Sorensen Wagner, as they sent it to parents on Tuesday. The full report has been filed with the Minnesota Department of Education. The teacher is banned from all South Washington County School District property, and the school is working with the Woodbury Police Department to investigate the incident. Sorensen Wagner wrote, students are reported that the teacher, whose name has not been released, I want that name released, said he wanted them to know about his life as a police officer. Okay, no. Fine, you were a police officer, you've now become a teacher or a substitute teacher. Fine, people make career changes. But it seems like, and I'm just going to say this almost seems like this is a guy who was forced to stop being a police officer or could never be a police officer, who lives his entire life wishing he was still or would have been a police officer. What this guy did is kind of, ugh. On Monday of this week, according to the district, the teacher put a student on the ground as part of a reenactment of Minneapolis police officers that led to the murder of George Floyd on May 2020. Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes contributing to Floyd's death. Chauvin and 3 other Minneapolis officers were convicted in connection with Floyd's death. They murdered him, and this guy is fascinated by it, apparently. That's what it sounds like. The teacher is not a police officer in Minnesota, Sorensen and Wagner wrote. So, I mean, I'm presuming that is he a law enforcement official in Wisconsin? Because I don't think this guy should be a law enforcement official, period. The teacher also reportedly twisted a student's arm behind their back and showed pressure points on the chin and face. This is an English class! The teacher spoke in disturbing detail about dead bodies he had seen, shared explicit details about 2 sexual assault cases he investigated, and repeatedly made harmful comments, according to the district. Officials with the district had not responded to the interview request from the Minnesota Star Tribune. I specifically want to acknowledge racial harm that occurred when the substitute teacher reenacted the prone restraint that resulted in the murder of George Floyd, Sorensen Wagner wrote. This reported behavior is reprehensible. I'm embarrassed. I am sorry this happened to our students. We will take much more time as students need to listen and create open space of courageous conversations that lead to healing, action, and education. A concerned parent whose son was in one of the classes led to the substitute teacher and corroborated the district's account of what happened. The teacher performed the maneuver police used on Floyd during 4th hour, which students in the class reported that the teacher's actions to the school administrator. They marched him out of the building extremely quick, said the parent who asked his name not be used because he has raised issues with the school in the past. Sorensen Wagner says the school has called Teachers on Call, the company that provides substitute teachers for South Washington County, to ensure the teacher does not fill any future vacancies in the district. How the hell did this guy get on that list anyway? Dear Lord. The Minnesota Star Tribune left voicemail and email messages with Teachers on Call on Wednesday morning. The company acknowledged the inquiry in an email, said it would provide an update as soon as possible. Staff members will be available to talk with the students in person as classes resume on Monday, Wednesday, as they learn at home day, and, of course, MEA break. Woodbury Police Safety has been working closely with the school district to look into the allegations against the teacher, who has no affiliation with the agency, said Chief and Director Jason Posel. No police report has been filed as of Wednesday morning. We are disturbed by the preliminary information of what occurred. The safety of the students, teachers, and staff in our community is our top priority. We'll investigate this incident in its fullest extent. All right, I want to start off with the obvious things. This is assault. This is a teacher putting their hands on students, not only reenacting killing Derek Chauvin in class for, I don't know, fun, but where was it? He twisted a student's arm behind their back and showed pressure points on the chin and face. That's physically touching the kids. That beyond any of the insanely crazy things this, what sounds like a psychopath, did in these classrooms, he physically was touching the kids. Spoke in disturbing detail about dead bodies he'd seen, shared explicit details about 2 sexual assault cases he investigated, and repeatedly made racially harmful comments, according to the district. What are the other things that he said? He stated police brutality is not real. He mimicked holding a gun up and pointing it at students, told sexist jokes, and engaged in inappropriate and racially harmful behavior during separate English classes. This is not some loser doing, and nothing against the physical education teachers there, but this is some loser that basically, I'll go out and I'll teach some gym or something like that. No! This guy was brought in to teach English, and he turned it into, oh, God, isn't cops being awesome? And by the way, there's no such thing as police brutality. I can do anything I want as a cop. I can do it. Well, it sounds like this is what he's kind of saying. I need the state of Minnesota to ensure this guy is not substituting at any school. Period. Dear Lord. He put his hands on children in the classroom. He basically reenacted the murder of George Floyd. He said there's no such thing as police brutality. What? Say that to Jaleel Stallings, you idiot. Wow. This is crazy. And I won't pass up the opportunity I have here to talk about this as our cultural discussions happen about, trying to get control of the classroom. They put a gay flag in the classroom. They've got to get their agenda reined in. How many of those people who claim teachers are a threat to their kids is going to look at this situation where a teacher was actually a threat to the kids, was touching the kids, was putting their hands on the kids, was being wildly inappropriate, and say, well, that's just a substitute teacher. I don't know why you're upset about that, because what he was putting forward is basically pro-cop right-wing talking points. How many rightos in this state who rail against a gay, you can have a gay teacher, but if they say anything that implies they're gay and that's somehow okay in society, we're going to demand they get fired because we can't have an agenda in the classroom. And looking at this guy and saying that's okay, or just saying nothing at all. Dear Lord, if you're accusing people of trying to abuse kids, you should be livid, because this is an actual case of someone laying their hands on children. I guarantee you, has any Republican come on out and condemned this? Kudos to them if they have. But this kind of psychopathic right-wing behavior, my God. This person should not be a substitute teacher in any school in the state of Minnesota, in my opinion. And frankly, like I said, when I read through this story, there's one of two things I think is the scenario. This is just pure speculation. Pure speculation. Either this is a guy that was a cop, but is no longer allowed to be a cop and still dreams of being a cop, or it's a guy who wanted to be a cop, never got to be a cop, and still dreams about being a cop, and thinks that when he goes into any environment that basically he can do pro-cop propaganda and see everybody loves that. I can't even imagine how scared to death some of these kids were when he's putting kids into arm holds and saying, we got pressure points, and let me tell you about the dead. What did he say about the dead bodies? Teacher spoke in disturbing detail about dead bodies he had seen. This is an English class. Where are all those people that talk about teachers with agendas now? Oh, that's right. Well, cops, Wow. First of all, I don't blame Woodbury schools. I don't blame the teachers. I don't blame anything. No one is thinking this is going to happen. You say, I need a substitute teacher from an organization that can teach English. You're thinking you're going to get someone who might not be an English teacher, but at least can get through the basics for a substitute teacher day. I get that point. So I don't criticize this. As a matter of fact, the fact that they marched this guy out of the school as quickly as they did seems to be the right tone indeed, how they took it. But I'm just, what in the hell is this? And has this guy substituted at any other schools and said and done anything like this? Because that's the next question. Did this guy put his hands on other students and other schools? Wow. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday. Yeah. That is stunning. And how many of those people, like I said, who have been screaming about, we need to take control of the classroom, have no problem with what this guy did? Holy, wow. And by the way, and I should mention, and this is something we brought up yesterday in regards to the jackass that is J.D. Vance coming to our state and bad-mouthing our city in Minneapolis by getting out there. I think it's time for, you have these people out here that fantasize and romanticize the killing of George Floyd. When you looked at the picture of J.D. Vance, who was sitting behind him? Tarab, the guy from Second, but there was a bunch of other cops there that were there showing support, talking about the bad city of Minneapolis. Now, I don't know what the mentality of those cops were, but I'm getting damn tired of rightos and cops who think that George Floyd should have died, and that was a good kill by Derek Chauvin, going and using the Third Precinct as their photo op space. And as one person said, do you know how hard it is to actually nowadays to be down there? I mean, there's a microbrew right next to it. There's a bustling, busy Lake Street and Target across the street. They have to work really hard to make the view on their photo op at the Third Precinct so as myopic as possible to not see that it is not a dead and dying city, that basically that it's this narrative they want to push. It's ludicrous how much they have to. If you look at the J.D. Vance, it's almost like they took it down below him, looking up at him, because that's not the only angle they can take that shot at anymore to where it doesn't nullify their entire argument. No, I am tired of Republicans and cops that think that George Floyd should have died and wish they could do it more often to the other black people of Minneapolis. I am tired of those people going out there and using that building as a photo op. So it's time for it to come down. And all you, trust me, you go on out there, you tear it down, you plant a bunch of flowers. You don't have to develop it right today. But you go out there and plant a bunch of flowers. You put up, a nice sculpture, put a few trees in there. I don't care what you do with it, but you turn it into something where they can't sit and pose in front of it, because I guarantee you they won't go down there if the photo op looks like they're going to the freaking garden show. Okay? They won't. Doesn't mean that they won't find somewhere else on their checklist of bad blocks that they can go take a photo at in Minneapolis, which is not that many. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey argued to a wary city council Tuesday that the majority of residents support his plans to repurpose the former Third Precinct building as a democracy center. The charged police station sat vacant since it burned in 2020 and enduring a reminder of the violence that followed George Floyd's murder, once again set on fire by Boogaloo Boys that came into town to try to start a race war. City leaders have struggled to agree on the plans on the site. The council's majority has pushed Frey to use the building in a way that directly benefits racial healing in the city. The mayor needs council support to secure funding for any plan in the site. In April, Frey proposed turning the building into a democracy center to host the city's elections division alongside 8,000 square feet of community space. The city is a replacement police station a few blocks away. During the Tuesday city council meeting, Frey staff presented two surveys showing more than two-thirds of respondents within the precinct's boundaries somewhat or strongly support the plans. Moving forward doesn't mean negating our history, Frey told the council. It means embracing the future. Many city council members aren't sold. A non-binding resolution to rebuke the mayor's entire plan failed by one vote. In a separate vote, a majority expressed doubt that a bustling commercial hub is the right location for what would partly serve as a warehouse for election equipment. It lacks imagination in what this corner can be, said City Council Manager Jason Chavez of the warehouse idea. The vacant Third Precinct has become a backdrop for Republican politicians seeking to criticize Democratic local state officials as in news cameras. The full council is set to vote on Thursday on a resolution that would urge Frey to not include a warehouse in his plans. I'm going to just say this. I don't care what you guys do with it. Tear the frickin' building down right now. It clearly is not going to be just a paint job on that sucker. Tear the building down and put out some potted plants. Make them look nice. Like I said, maybe during the holidays, maybe a little Christmas tree. I don't care. Put something out there that basically stops it from being photo. I mean, my God, the photo lab at a freaking J.C. Penney doesn't have as many Republicans coming in there to get their family portraits taken. Yeah, and city council, I get it. I understand you have some problems. This is not about negating your concerns, but this is about basically how long do you want to give people that hate your city the springboard they desire so that they can bash on this city. It's not your job to make sure these people can basically vilify Minneapolis at a heartbeat. Tear the damn building down. Do something else with the site. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday.
If I were a human being.
Just tear it down, man. You don't have to build anything. You just put a few flower fountains out there. Just do something out there that doesn't make it look like it's, okay? 952-946. I'm tired of these guys coming in here because it's you know how cool Minneapolis, St. Paul is? God, I mean, if you've not traveled extensively, can I'll give you one, Patrick, I'm going to give you one because I know you've done a lot of traveling. This city is shockingly clean. Hey, wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, have you been to some of these towns?
Oh, absolutely. The one town, and I don't want to name names too much, but San Antonio, it was very just, there was, and I'm not dissing it, it was, nice, but once you got kind of outside of the downtown, it was just.
It's like Vegas, man. Once you get off the strip in Vegas, it's a demilitarized zone, and it's just god-awful. No, I mean, I've driven in New York, and there's like mattresses stacked on the side of the highway. There's, Boston, you can't tell if it's snowing or if it's all the Dunkin' Donuts cups they've thrown out of the car. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't trash. There is some, but there ain't a lot of it. And I've had friends come here. Okay, I'll give you a great one. We went to MIA. I had some friends that came here and went to MIA, and it was Washburn Park's right across the street from MIA. And they look at the park, it's like, why? They cleaned it up. They're going to have an event over there? I said, no, that's how it always looks. Like, that's how the park always looks. Like, yeah. So he goes, the parks in my city don't look like that. I said, well, yeah, that's why it's your city. This is my city. We don't do things there. That's just one thing. The schools. Trust me, go and look at the House of Horrors. Republicans have made some schools in some states. Unbelievable. The medical care. The medical care you get in Minneapolis, St. Paul, it's on par with the best in the freaking country, man. The parks, the wages. I know people who are starting to come up here because they're saying, here's the exact thing. I can deal with the winter, especially if I'm going to get an additional $20,000 a year for the job that they're not willing to pay me down south. There are some problems. I think we definitely have to deal with the daycare issue and, affordable housing. We definitely need to deal with those things. But sweet Lord, man, this town kicks ass. And I am tired of clown cars. J.D. Vance, get my city's name out of your effing mouth, man. Don't you dare. Get my state out of your mouth. Punk. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. But on par for Republicans. Hey, guess what? Heartland Signal has another story of another Minnesota Republican that, you know what, you probably don't know anything about. But we should talk a little bit about it because they're trying to take over the Minnesota House. Out to Stillwater we go. Minnesota Republican state legislative candidate Jessica Johnson touts public safety in her bid for power, even though she has made social media posts defending January 6 rioters and questioning the legitimacy of 9/11. In 2010, we'll start with this, though. In 2010, Johnson made a since-deleted Facebook post explaining an altercation she had with a state trooper where she said, F the police, direct quote. Here it goes. Yesterday, my car broke down on the freeway. A state trooper stopped and treated me like a criminal by sneaking up on the passenger window, tapping on it, and backing up to the trunk like I was a threat. I told him my car merely broke down and that I had called to tow to get it. He said, okay, I'll come back and check on you later, neglecting to tell me he was going to have my car towed before my tow truck even got there. He filed a report stating that he had abandoned my vehicle and he knew that was not the case. $250 I will have to pay to get my car out of the impound lot. Not to mention an additional $100 to tow it out of there. Who needs food anyway? So this was a post. Jessica, you weren't shot. How about I say that, you privileged jerk? Do you know what happens when black people have this happen to them? Yeah. Dear Lord, man. You act as if the same person who will say, oh, you know when those state troopers shot the guy on a 94? Well, he got what he deserved. How dare he? You know, the truth is he probably had to move it. Depending on where you broke down, it might have been a safety issue to where you couldn't have been there. That was one. That's been a long time ago. We're all younger. We all have to, take time to kind of grow up. And, yeah, it takes some time. More recently, on January 7th, Johnson made posts defending January 6 rioters who attacked Capitol police officers when someone commented that Trump encouraged the previous day's attack. Johnson responded by saying it was a lie. No, it wasn't. Funny story. And that Trump encouraged people to stand up for their freedoms. Like hanging Mike Pence. Reading from her quotes, disgusting level of complacency when freedom of speech is not respected. How do you not see the attack? Because we live in China now, censored. I'm so disgusted. Stripped away freedoms one by one. Someone then pointed out he encouraged attacks on the U.S. Capitol grounds. What do you expect? No, he didn't. That's a lie. He encouraged people to stand up for their freedoms. We are under attack. No. You remember when he said, go get them? That was Trump. He got impeached on it, too. 5 Capitol police officers, by the way, died in the aftermath of the defense as these rioters, these insurrectionists, as she insists, they must have died from their freedom of speech. I guess that's what she's implying. Including 4 who committed suicide in the weeks and the months after the events. One rioter, Ashley Babbitt, who also died in the riot, got what she deserved, frankly. She was told to stop trying to come through the window. And if I was on a guard, and I'd say this as a veteran, if I was on guard duty and someone was coming in there and it was clear that their intent, you keep trying to make an argument. She was just trying to deliver her list of grievances. No, she was smashing windows to try to get into the House lobby and not obeying orders. And if I was on guard duty in the military and someone was coming in like that and I gave them warnings to go down, I would have dropped her like a fly too. Because that's what you do. This was not an American citizen. This was an enemy of the country at that point. And, yeah. Johnson also questioned the legitimacy of the 9/11 terrorist attacks when she posted the video in 2014 titled 9/11 No Planes Video Fakery. Watch for proof. Sweet Lord. We just had 9/11. And trust me, I have watched the documentaries on this. There were planes. Joseph also responded to a comment from a skeptical user saying, it was not aluminum airplanes that took out steel buildings, ask science. I don't know how it was pulled off, but I do not know it was not aluminum airplanes that took out steel buildings, ask science. 23 New York Police Department officers, 343 firefighters, paramedics died on 9/11, while hundreds more died or became sick in the years afterwards due to health complications. Numerous conspiracy theories about the attacks, like Johnson, have been repeated, debunked by the decades since the attacks. Matter of fact, there's a fantastic video from Italy that they went through there, and they showed exactly how these buildings were taken down and why Building 7 collapsed, too. And Building 7 collapsed because it was a design flaw that it's phenomenal. I'll have to find that. Maybe I'll post that on the Friday link this week. It was a phenomenal video to watch, and it's dubbed from Italian, but they did their research, and it shows exactly how those buildings fell. Johnson's Facebook profile has been mostly wiped outside of a handful of posts. By the way, not the only Republican. Most Republicans who are running today have frantically scoured this, their social media pages. It's been mostly wiped outside of a handful of posts published in a range of from 2013 to last week. She did not respond to a request for comment. On her campaign website, Johnson says she draws from an indication of law enforcement. I will say this is very interesting. If you look at her webpage, she's, first of all, it's not red like Republican. She's running it as green, but she has the O in Johnson looks shockingly like the QAnon Q. Seriously, look at her webpage, and I won't send you to it because, but if you look at it, the O in her name looks a lot like the Q from QAnon. It just does. Oh, wow. 1 second here. Yeah, this does not surprise me in any case that this is. 1 second here. Just I'm dealing with a technical issue. There it is. This doesn't surprise me. On her campaign website, Johnson says she draws from an education in law enforcement. What was that about? F the police? For her public safety platform. An ad posted to Johnson's Facebook page also highlights her law enforcement education in a call to not abandon first responders. Like you kind of have with your conspiracy theories about 9/11. Abandoning first responders. Not those first responders. Not those cops. Is that what you're saying? I mean, that's what I'm kind of asking the question. Johnson has been endorsed by the Minnesota Police Officer and Peace Officers Association, who also did not respond to the request to comment on whether they still support her in light of her previous posts. Once again, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officer Association has endorsed someone who wrote F the police. They're clearly just there because she's a Republican. That if they haven't pulled their endorsement, then I think we can just say this about the Minnesota Police and Peace Officer Association. They basically are only endorsing because it's Republican, Democrat, because I guarantee you if there was a Democrat out there that they had endorsed and the second they got wind there was an F the police post by them, that endorsement would have been gone. The fact that they are dodging here, please. And once again, it's not just that. It's the 9/11 where cops died and the Minnesota police and peace officers said still okay with us. And then come the 9/11 conspiracy theories where all those police officers and firefighters and first responders died. And that still is okay with you guys. All right. Johnson is a Republican nominee facing incumbent state representative Josiah Hill, who currently represents 33B in the Minnesota House of Representatives. I guarantee you that this has not been out there that much, but it should be. This is just the latest. These Republicans, holy God. Holy God. Now, once again, I would say this. She clearly probably shouldn't be the House rep. I mean, clearly. She probably shouldn't be the candidate for the Republican Party, but those cowards are going to swallow and say, well, we're going to go through with this. Once again, Dotseth up in northern Minnesota had sworn affidavits of spousal abuse, child abuse, pet abuse, and what was that about slavery? And they still stand by their guy. Yeah, the Republican Party of Minnesota is an empty, hollow shell of what it used to be. So I have zero doubt they're not gonna say this. As a matter of fact, they're probably gonna get, why? How dare you pick up the stuff that she has said and hold her accountable for what she posted? How dare you? Don't you know she arrested for a reason? We just don't want people to find out about it. Come on, you're the real bad guys here. I don't know why the Republican Party of Minnesota sounds like a 1990s high school kid, but oh my God. Just stop it. Another gem from the Minnesota GOP. 952-9466. Did you find them all like in a bargain basement bin at a Walmart? You know, got Royce White and Dotseth and Johnson. You got them all in one little bin there? That, you know, right next to the cheese puffs and discounted underwear? Is that where you found all these guys? Because I can't believe you got pound for pound. You bought in bulk this year. Minnesota GOP. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. The Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday.
Let me tell you. You my little boo thing. So I'll give a
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Okay, so I got to get into this one, too, because this is... what? Brooklyn Park City Council wants one of its members who has exhibited disconcerting behavior over the past year to get mental health evaluation. Mayor Holz Winston on Monday's council meeting read aloud a letter addressed to the West District Representative Maria Tran, suggesting she take that action after she claimed that council members and city staff were plotting to have her killed and expressed an interest in bringing a gun to council meetings. Yee. That is, you think people are trying to kill you and you want to bring a gun. Yeah, this is a big problem. There's a safety concern here as a council, Winston said before reading the letter. This is not a fun topic to address. We are not mental health professionals, but we have seen some things that are concerning to us. I would say indeed. Tran was censured in June for violating the council's code of conduct and the city's respectful workplace policy. Following the censure, Tran, as well as was the case in Monday, has been absent from council meetings or has attended remotely. She has previously claimed that grievances and complaints she has brought to city leadership have not been investigated. She has also filed several police reports against staff and council members and has feared for her safety. In a September 18th email to city manager Jay Strobel with the Mafia in City Chamber in the subject line, Tran said she felt her life was in danger, writing that there is a conspiracy to shut me up and that the drug use led to a death in City Hall. In another case, Tran filed a complaint against council member Christian Erickson, claiming he wanted to punch her. Brooklyn Center Police looked into that allegation. Don't say complaints are not getting investigated because they are, Erickson said at Monday's meeting. Tran's behavior received heightened attention after she allegedly approached a Brooklyn Park police sergeant about getting a permit to obtain a firearm. Tran told the sergeant she needed a gun because she was concerned about being attacked by the city council. Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley said at Monday's meeting that paranoia has been a theme with Tran, but he could not find any evidence to support her assertions. Obviously, we are legitimately concerned, Bruley said. It's heartbreaking and a horrible way to live. I applaud the council for taking this action. And once again, these are concerned people saying, please get a mental health evaluation. Something is going wrong here. 5 of the 6 other council members signed the letter encouraging Tran to take a mental health exam. Now, you might be like me. It's like, wait a second here. After all this stuff, not everyone on the city council signed this letter? Because that seems like a little shock. The council member Boyd Morrison declined to sign the letter, saying that he would not be part of anything that would shame or embarrass Tran and prevent her from exercising her right to buy and own a firearm. It's totally unethical, unnecessary, and a violation of her human rights, Morrison said on Monday. Let a doctor determine whether or not she's unfit, unstable, or let the residents determine that by not voting for her. Okay, Morrison, first of all, I want to stop really quick and just run what she is convinced people on the city council are after her, and she wants to bring a gun into the city council chambers. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what the potential outcome could be here. She comes into a city council meeting, and because she has what looks to be a mental health episode, starts shooting randomly, including you. But I guess that if you got shot, you'd say, well, thank God the Second Amendment is, I guess that's what you're thinking. For goodness sakes, this is dangerous. But let me also say this. Doctors need, a licensed professional needs to do this. The people of Brooklyn Park don't sit there and, the people of Brooklyn Park don't sit there and vote on whether or not someone gets a gun. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about workplace safety, and your mentality is, it's fine. Hopefully she doesn't shoot anybody. I'm willing to take that chance and get to the next election. Dude, you need to stop your freaking gun worship. For goodness sakes. Wow. Yeah, I think I'm going to be interested in following what happens with this story. Holy cow. Native Roots Radio is up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, see ya.